Welcome to episode 5 of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. Over at DC, they announced a talent search for Harley Quinn Zero, which releases in November, written by Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner. Now, this issue is going to feature a range of artists, each doing one page each. I believe it's 18 different artists in the book. And Harley Quinn herself will actually comment on the art and break the fourth wall, telling us what she thinks. So if you go to the link below, you can find the details for submitting art for a 4-panel page, and maybe your art will be selected by Dan Didio and Jim Lee, and you'll be featured in Harley Quinn Zero. Finally, the big news this week was DC's 3D covers, which were released this last Wednesday, September 4th. Now, the whole 3D cover has been kind of a mess for DC. In fact, they bought out all the plastic in a particular province of China, and the people in that province had to go without plastic cups for a month. The big problem with these covers, of course, was the demand. Now, these covers had to be printed over 3 months ago for a couple reasons. First of all, nothing of this magnitude had been done before. I believe that the biggest print run prior was 100,000 copies of Rolling Stone that had this particular 3D effect. Normally it's used on cups and plates and things like that. So DC actually printed in excess of 2.5 million books. That's a 25% increase over the number of books they normally print per month. So not only did they have to figure out exactly how to do this, with 5 layers of art required for each cover. The art also had to be done a certain way. The Joker cover, they ended up throwing away over 170,000 copies because there was just too much detail in the art, and so it was blurry once they tried to print it on the plastic covers. In addition to all those problems, the books had to be printed, like I said, 3 months ahead of time because of the extra weight of the plastic covers. DC couldn't afford to fly them from China to Canada, where the guts of the comic were then put in, so they had to ferry them over. Thus, the extra time DC needed to get them shipped. Yes, you heard that right. Part of the reason they had to be printed so far ahead of time is because they literally came on a slow boat from China. Now, what they did was, once the demand started getting too high and DC realized they weren't going to be able to fulfill all the orders that were coming in, they canceled all the orders outright, and they decided they were just going to allocate the books. Nobody knows the exact formula they use to allocate, and many retailers are coming up short. They don't even have comics to put out on the racks. In fact, some of them don't even have enough comics to fill their pull lists and their subscriptions. So it's causing a big headache. At the end of the day, the covers look really cool. I hope that you got to your comic shops early on Wednesday, because if you didn't, they're probably already sold out. So if you want to get your hands on some of these covers, I suggest getting to your comic shops early for the rest of the month on Wednesdays. Otherwise, you're going to be paying well over a cover price for the issues when they come out. Now, I was lucky enough in San Diego to get a prototype cover of Justice League 7.1 from Dan Didio. That's the Deadshot cover, but there's no inside. It was just a prototype. Like I said, it's actually a little bit bigger than the regular comic. If I hold the other one up next to it, you can see that the prototype's just a little bit bigger. So I was able to score a few 3D covers myself, so pretty happy about that. But like I said, if you want to get your hands on these, you're either going to be paying premium prices, or you got to get to your comic shops early and hope that they didn't run out already. On to my reviews for the week. The first book I'm going to be covering also came out just this last Wednesday, September 4th. That was Thanos Rising number 5, which concluded this series and leads right into Marvel's big event, Infinity. Now, what Thanos Rising covered is the early history of Thanos, his birth up until the time that he destroyed Titan. I found this title to be pretty interesting, but also a bit unexpected. It's a heavy and mature reading coming from Marvel, and I definitely would say it's for the mature reader. The issue starts out with Thanos having returned to Titan after spending a few years as a space pirate, ravaging the universe, destroying worlds, basically becoming a universal serial killer. He's decided to return to Titan, the place of his birth, and basically kill everybody. He actually ends up leaving his father alive to suffer, knowing that he birthed this serial killer, basically. And We come to learn in the issue that the girl that Thanos has trying to win the heart of all along turns out not to be a real person at all, but actually Death. No one else can see her but Thanos, thus the Mad Thanos title that he's earned. It's really an interesting story, getting this backstory on Thanos. You almost feel bad for him, but then at the same time, is he really seeing death? Is it hallucination? Is he crazy? Is he not? The origin story here, the early history of Thanos that's presented in this series, it doesn't answer all the questions, and it leaves a lot to debate. It's really a good story. It gets people talking. Is he really seeing death? Does death really exist? It's really a pretty good story. I definitely recommend it if you're a fan of the cosmic universe part of Marvel. The art is done by Simone Bianchi, and she's great in the splash pages. The storytelling is a bit lacking just from panel to panel. It's a bit jumpy and choppy. But Jason Aaron, who wrote the series, did a great job of giving some characterization to Thanos and making him a character that you can empathize with a little bit. But it really turned out at the end that Thanos is evil and he's all alone, which is exactly what you want from a major villain like Thanos. Moving on to my retro review, I'm going to talk about Hellblazer issues 41 through 46, which is subtitled Dangerous Habits. Now, this series stars John Constantine, who many might know from the movie Constantine starring Keanu Reeves. Now, this series of 5 books is actually the part of John Constantine's comic history that the movie's based on. So, he's contracted lung cancer, he's going to die, what next? Now, the comic book version was actually created by Alan Moore. Alan Moore has gone on record as saying the whole reason that he created John Constantine is because his collaborators on the art side of things wanted to have a creator that looked like Sting from The Police. So he doesn't look much like Keanu Reeves. He looks a lot more like Sting. He's British. He's very rude and sarcastic and cynical. And although he's a very powerful sorcerer, he prefers to use his wits to solve problems. And he's pretty much a con man. And he likes to trick both people and creatures and wizards. And basically he'll do just about anything to solve problems and do what he thinks is right. So the story starts out, Constantine learns that he has lung cancer, and he spends the first issue kind of trying to figure out what to do next. He definitely doesn't want to die, but he's just really kind of lost. He's not sure what to do. He goes to a hospital where he has a friend who owes him a favor. He checks out the cancer ward there. He decides at that point this is not the way to go out. It's not a peaceful place. He's not going to die like that. And he figures that he'll hook up with some old friends who know magic, and maybe they have a magical way to cure the cancer. So the second issue, he goes to see an old friend in Ireland, and come to find out the friend's dying too of liver cancer, and the whole reason he wanted to see Constantine was to see if Constantine could heal him. Obviously, neither one's going to be able to heal each other, so they decide to get drunk. You know, like you do. So, sure enough, his friend succumbs to the liver failure, and it turns out that his friend had made a deal with the devil for a way to amass a great collection of booze. And when he died, the devil was going to be able to claim his soul. So, he's passed away, the devil's there to collect. Constantine is not about to let that happen. Come to find out, his friend had made a little out clause that the devil had to collect his friend's soul by midnight on the day he died. Well, one of the things his friend had done was he had a pool of holy water that he cast a changing spell on to create this really, really awesome beer. So, what Constantine does is he tricks the devil into having a drink with him that's actually holy water. So, once Constantine cancels the spell, after the devil's drunk the beer, it turns back into holy water, the devil's banished back to hell. Constantine tricked him, managed to save his friend's soul. So in the next issue, as you can imagine, the devil's not happy with Constantine. But when Constantine dies, guess where he's going? So now he's really motivated to find a cure for the cancer. He ends up doing what he does best. he ends up conning the devil, saving himself. I'm not going to bore you with the details. Go read it for yourself. Hellblazer 41 through 46. It's a great story. It's nothing like the movie. I mean, the movie was okay, but this really is the essence of Constantine. Hellblazer ran for 300 issues. It's really a seminal DC work of Vertigo. If you like mature themes and really crass action and anti-heroes, then Constantine is the hero for you, the anti-hero for you, and Hellblazer is the series for you. So like I said, Dangerous Habits, Hellblazer 41 through 46, written by Garth Ennis. The art is by Will Simpson. Definitely worth a read. So that's it for this episode. I want to thank you all for watching. Join me next time when I talk about Forever Evil #1, written by Jeff Johns with art by David Finch. I'll also be covering Absolution Rubicon, which is Christos Gage's creator-owned work. And in my modern review, I'm going to cover Absolution, the first series by Christos Gage, which introduced us to this interesting character, sort of a serial killer cop. So it's definitely worth checking out. I'll see you then.